Hello and welcome to the very first podcast of Is the Bus Still Running? I'm your host, Cristian Vallejo, and I am very excited for this very first podcast. Today I have a special guest, Fatima Velasco, that's an accounting student. She's a senior at UIS. She's also treasurer of Ritmo Flow y Sol and secretary for Women of Distinction. Thank you for joining us today, Fatima.
Thank you for having me, Cristian. It is an honor to be here.
So, for today's, since it's the very first podcast, I wanted to talk about what this podcast will be about. So my plan for this podcast is to bring in guests from campus life and stuff like that. And this podcast will mainly be about like living on campus, what there is to do around campus and stuff like that. And the reason I chose Miss Fatima to be our very first guest for this podcast is because she has been here for quite some time. She's been here for 5 years now, and she lived through the pandemic experience of college. She's been involved a lot in organizations as well as college stuff. So, yes. So again, thank you for joining us today, Fatima. So first I wanted to ask you how you're doing.
I'm doing pretty well. School has been very much schooling, as the youth says. But it's getting to that point of the semester where you have a rhythm down, or you think you have a rhythm down. In my case, more assignment. I feel like more assignments come in each week. So it's just a little change to the balance, change to the routine. But how are you doing, Cristian?
I agree with you. I feel like we're starting to get to that point where we're finally getting to the groove of things. But then a week comes and it's like you have a whole bunch of things to do. And then another week comes and you have like nothing to do.
Yes. 1 week I'm packed with, let's say, 3-4 quizzes, a whole project. And on top of that, the usual homework. And then the next week's like, okay, no quiz, just the notes. And it's like, it throws me off. Like, yeah, it's great. And it's to the point where, like, I don't know at this point where I'm at. And I can't get ahead since, like, assignments are locked.
Yeah.
And I know that that's a struggle that some students go through. Like, okay, yeah, you want to get ahead because, as you say, like, 1 week you have nothing to do in a sense. And at the same time, campus life may not be hosting that many events that week, and you're just there sitting thinking about life, versus another week, like this week, for example, it's packed with events and you don't know what you're going to make it to. But in regards to class, it's just a struggle. It's just a thing, a routine again to get used to. And hopefully continue getting the groove of things, because, you know, that's what we're here for. One of the many things that we're here for. But yeah, I've been here pre-pandemic, pandemic, and post-pandemic. So I've gotten quite the experience at UIS. It's interesting, and I always catch myself, and I kind of feel bad, that I always say, like, oh, before the pandemic, life was this. Or, like, the union had this, and that. But compared to, like, if we compare student life and campus life, I think it hasn't really changed that much.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like sometimes events are having more presence. It's a hit or miss, of course. You've seen events be a hit or miss sometimes. But it's interesting. Still love campus life, still love being involved and seeking ways to continue getting involved. So once again, thank you for having me here today. It's quite the experience itself.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's very interesting that you say, like, how you explain that you've been here for during and post-pandemic. Do you think UIS is recovering and returning to the way it was before the pandemic? Or do you think that a lot of things have shifted and evolved and probably won't return to the way they were?
I mean, it's... My freshman year, I was involved mostly with OLA's, the Organization of Latin American Students, as a member. the there was works of a new organization at that point that got held back because of COVID, but I wasn't in e-board positions my freshman year. So, events again were they were still hosted. I remember I would go to something on Monday, Monday worship nights, and then last I was really it was the Hispanic Latin discussions, and I feel like those were the ones that really diverted me into other ones. But I have noticed that pre-pandemic versus now, discussion groups or those that I've attended have gone down a bit in attendance, or at least I haven't gone as much recently.
Yeah.
Post-pandemic. I feel like slowly, campus is recovering, but I just don't think life could be the same after that, even if we try.
Yeah.
But we're trying, we're a small campus, we're starting to work around the many restrictions that we did have.
Yes.
And I think, we're still, when we plan events in certain orgs, we still think about COVID. What about COVID? What about, it being sanitary regardless? So I don't know. I feel like yeah, we've gotten a long way since, and it has been 3 years?
Yeah, I think it's been about
3 years. It's over 3 years, so that's shocking to say. I have not put that much thought into how long COVID, how long ago it was. So I think we're doing well. Of course, student life is always undergoing changes. And new policies, of course, new ways for orgs to work around with what we have. But again, because we're such a small campus, well, either way, how do other bigger schools manage many orgs at hosting many events same day, same time? But I feel again, it's a hit or miss with students and how their schedules are doing. Because of course, if there's an event and you have to study for an exam, you're most likely going to prioritize studying for the exam, unless you're like me, you're going to procrastinate. But I would say yes. We're on our continuing path to recovery.
And I like the fact that you brought up that UIS is a smaller campus, not only compared to its sister universities, but also a lot of universities in general. How do you think, since I know you've been pretty involved in your years here, do you think there's a lot of things you can do even though it's a smaller campus?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I heard someone say in an interview one time, it only takes one event, and it really does only take that. Even if it's planned or an impulse, I think mine was an impulse of going to that very first HL discussion meeting, and that's what really took off my involvement in a sense. So despite it being a small campus, I think I like that more intimate community, because then you truly try to get to know people, and you truly create relationships with them. And you see there's a lot of interconnections or just overlapping in organization involvement. But I know I met you, for example, by the Monarcas, and from there we've been involved in other organizations. So I think that there's a lot to do. As I said though, there's going to be a week where there's nothing planned by any of the orgs you're involved in.
Yeah.
And then there's a week where all of the orgs that you're involved in are hosting something, and you don't want to miss out in a sense. It's a first time event. I've noticed there's a lot of events this is our first time hosting it.
Yeah.
And usually those are successful events. So I think yes, despite it being a small campus, there's always something to do. I know organizations that have weekly scheduled meetings or events, and it's just a matter of organizing, time management, and making the effort to attend. But even if it's not an official event, and let's just say executive board is just planning something, I know they could treat it as bonding time with e-board to continue getting to know each other and better plan for the organization itself. No, we've had those nights where yes, it's part of the meeting. Like we're in a meeting and then something diverts into like personal conversation, and then I think that's a fun way to, again, continue growing the bond, because it just makes you stronger as an executive board and as friends at that point, if you are friends with your e-board.
Yeah, I agree. I think you definitely need to have those kind of connections with your e-board to be able to host better events and better plan.
Yeah. It helps in all kinds of levels. You're more comfortable with planning and proposing, and that's also like a leadership skill, that you're able to create conversation, create connections with someone that maybe you thought you were never going to do so.
Yes. Another thing that I like about the organizations on this campus is, even though we are small, there's a wide range of organizations you can join.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a wide range of religious organizations, a wide range of HL organizations, a wide range of international student organizations.
There's there's a lot of spiritual orgs that and even like they might do like similar things, like they all have their own touch, and it's something that students will slowly like divert into. They'll find their best interest. Again, like there's a lot of cultural. That is one thing that has grown, I believe. The Hispanic Latin presence at least has grown since I first got here. So I feel like that's also helping. But I also feel like we take it for granted sometimes, and I can talk about that later. But yes, international students as well. They've also hosted great events and sponsored great events.
Yes.
Love our cultural groups.
Yeah. Well, speaking about culture, I know you were present for the whole SGA debacle last semester, and I know you brought up saying that we take the culture groups for granted sometimes. Would you mind sharing on some experiences and stuff like that, on why you feel that is?
Because our presence is growing, I think that we don't appreciate the love for our culture. In a sense, I don't want that to like be misinterpreted, but because our communities are growing, we're like, there's no point in learning about it, in a sense of like, or getting involved. But I think that there is, because like we're not just, for example, right now it's HLHM, Hispanic Latin Heritage Month, and we're not just Hispanic or Latin during this month, and we're not just supposed to appreciate the culture during this month. At least in my opinion, I'm Mexican American, and I've always inclined more to my Mexican side. Culture, it's just that love that I've only known. So to be able to do that year round, and not just yay,
and not just for a month. Like, yes, of course the month is to celebrate, but why just celebrate 1 month when we have the rest of the year? In regards to the SGA situation, that mishap, it was shocking in a sense to see. Shocking and impactful. I feel like it was very impactful and very passionate, the outcome that it led to. I was at the union before the meeting went down, and you can feel tension.
And you can feel the tension. You can feel the stress. You can feel people riling up, and it's just. I was like, I don't know what's going down. After I leave, I had class.
Yeah.
I remember vividly, and I got out of class thinking like, oh, it's over. I'll stop by to see what happened. So when I get there, and everyone's trying to tell me what's been going on, and I was like, hey, catch me up, or what am I missing? Like, what has happened? It was something I wasn't expecting, honestly. It was good to see the community gathering, but I don't think it had to take that for the community to get gathered.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it happened, of course, but we do have to own up to our actions, or we have consequences that will follow whatever we do, despite it being good or bad. And in this case, unfortunately, it didn't end well for some people. And I feel like after that, I wish like the communities would have continued getting stronger. And they have been. They've been connecting and working together, but never to that. I don't want to see that same passion for the same reason. I do want to see the passion again, Hispanic, the HLHM flag raising recently. I feel like that really gathered up communities and people. So something like that, in a positive note. But again, it's just that event itself, those events that transpired were not something that I was expecting.
Had anything even a similar level occurred prior to that, like in your past years?
That I recall? No. Oh, wait. Yes, I lied. My freshman year, this is 2019, there was an incident where three, I believe, staff members dressed up as, mocking Mexican culture. One dressed up as, I believe, a border patrol officer, and another one of like a Mexican man caricature. So so they had that. I believe it was an off-campus party where they participated in, and they dressed up as that, like where the patrol officer was arresting the Mexican man caricature and a cartoon, and that photo got leaked in a sense. It was released, and obviously students were like,
upset.
If this is our staff members and you work with students who are minorities or who are Mexican American, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
So I know that there was a meeting. Well, I believe it was both chancellor and vice chancellor at the time. I'm blanking. I know Dr. Ford was there. There were a few other faculty members there present, and it was at the DC. So the room was packed. The room was full, and it was just discussing like how are they able to still keep their jobs after doing that. And I remember it vividly that they were on leave but with pay.
Oh.
Because according to a staff member, no pay is just very painful, or it's just sad. So I was like, yes, but many students were harmed. Like maybe they had never experienced any kind of racism. But yeah, maybe like we do experience it on a daily, or micro racism. But that is one thing that like I remember that could kind of get close to what had happened last. Yeah. I think, don't quote me on this, I don't remember the outcome exactly, but I think they did lose their jobs, ? I'm not quite sure. Again, I had to really think about that one, because you did stuff on me on that one.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing that I could think of that.
Of a similar situation.
But not the same amount of people. You could double or triple it with the SGA situation last semester.
Yeah.
Gathering.
The gathering.
What you say?
The meeting they had.
Yeah, it was an event to get to know SGA, and it turned into similar, but more
passionate, more larger outcome. That's very interesting to hear that a similar situation occurred. But moving on, I wanted to discuss your role that you've had in student activities and like student life here on campus with your organizations that you're a part of. Would you mind discussing a bit about that?
Oh gosh, a little portfolio. Currently, you mentioned earlier in the podcast. I'm currently treasurer for Rima Florison. It's a fairly new organization. Music appreciation org. We have lots of events coming up that I'm really excited for. I'm also secretary for One of Distinction. We have many events planned as well. We're also fairly new. I'm just excited. Those are the positions I'm holding right now, In the past, I'm a member of OLAS. Again, lots of great events coming up and that have been hosted. OLAS, Baile Monarcas, oh my gosh, that was a great one. Baile Monarcas, part of La Familia as well. I was vice president for that one. Vice president / secretary. Had a lot of great experiences there. I'm also involved with the Catholic Student Organization. In the past, after COVID, that was a little bit rocky for the org. We used to hold mass on campus before COVID, and I'm certain that during COVID we made the decision to not host mass. We didn't want to be a source of outbreak, even though there weren't many people that were attending. But if mass was held, we didn't want to expose the priests, expose students.
Yeah.
What other organizations? Well, in the past, I was sweetheart for Delta Kappa Epsilon, Kappa Beta. I'm not a psych major or minor, but I have attended some psych club meetings, and they're really interesting. Recently, there's a new organization. Oh my gosh, 2 organizations that again are fairly new as well. The Baking Club was restarted last year. Yeah, so that's one that I really hold close to my heart. I've been fond of cake decorating, so hopefully that's an event, Cristian, hint, that might be hosted soon. And there's a new organization, the Prairie Clowns, that I'm also very excited for. Social events are to come, and just get students involved. As we were talking earlier, like there are events where no students show up.
Yeah.
So we want to hopefully get them involved, and even if it's just let's play video games or karaoke nights. I know RFS will be hosting one soon. And many orgs choose to do karaoke nights because it does gather up people. We have the desire to sing. I think that those are the main ones that I've been involved in. Yeah, Women of Distinction, RFS, Ritmo Floison, Baile Monarcas, OLAS, Catholic Student Organization. In my first year, actually, I was really involved with Christian Student Fellowship and University Bible Fellowship, which I think they recently changed names. So those were also orgs that I hold close and near to my heart, and it's a little hard to balance all of them now that I list them out, but it's something that they really influenced and shaped the student, and the student that I am now. So I'm really thankful for that.
Yes. We can see you're pretty involved, not just now, but in all your years of being here at UIS. Would you say you've had an impact on the UIS community through these organizations?
Oh, I mean, I'd hope. I know I'm not dragged, but I have insisted that people join Baile Monarcas, and I think our current president, I dragged her into her first performance last year. So I think hopefully, even if it's not an impact, it's just a motivation.
Yeah.
Through being involved, through hopefully portraying school spirit. I like meeting new people, and I like building connections with them. I like seeing them again, not just once, not just being a stranger and not just seeing a face one time and never seeing them again. I like, again, building the connections, building the relationships, and hopefully they have a similar experience to what I had, or a better experience in regards to orgs and student life, campus life.
Yes, and I think sometimes the word impact can mean a lot of things. Because someone can have an impact even if it's just a wave or a hello.
Yes.
Because it can make them feel welcomed, and it can make them want to return and keep experiencing that and make them grow.
Yes. First impressions are really heavy.
Yeah.
And very influential. So yes. Go to events. It only takes one to hopefully get you involved more. I don't know if you want to share your experience and what got you involved, or if you're able to.
Well, I know I got more involved I think the very first org I joined was Baile Monarcas.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know at first that we had a Baile Monarcas until, because I used to be in the CAP program my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And my mentor, when we were having our mentor-mentee lunch with 2 other mentees and myself, they were talking about what works they were joining. And I know they brought it up and I was like, oh, well, that sounds interesting. And I showed up to the meeting and I thought it seemed fun. And yes, I started.
Yeah.
That's where we met for the first time.
Yeah. See, and here we are today.
Yes.
I remember that one had a great turnout.
It did. And then I remember we had like a little, I don't know, like it was a potluck or something.
Yes.
And that's where I think a lot of bonds grew, because that's where I met Kati and a bunch of other people. I remember we had tamales the next day or something.
Tacos.
Tacos, yes.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely, that's what I mean, like by having an impact and stuff like that. And definitely, I think going out to events, you can meet more people and hopefully find your little group.
Yes. Or many groups.
Yes.
Many people.
Many intersections.
Yes.
Well, now I want to move into our last section of this podcast, which is a Mad Lib. And I see that you've chosen a night at the Carnival, Mad Lib.
Yeah.
So let's get you filling it out. A night at the Carnival. When my best friend and I go to the Carnival, we go on as many humorous rides as we can before we run out of rides. Our first must is the roller park. What a beautiful, thrilling racing down the track at 7 miles an hour, throwing our arms into the air and screaming at the top of our legs.
Oh.
Not as terrifying but still floral fun are the bumper ears, where we drive around like crazy clips running into each other. By far the scariest ride is the tilt and shirt. It sends us walking in circles so fast it makes our feet spin. After that, we're happy as cafeterias to hop on the Ferris bottle and enjoy the slow, clear ride. It's a nice way to top off the evening and calm our computers.
Wow.
It was very beautiful.
Very interesting. Yeah. I want to go to that Carnival. Shake my feet. What did it say? Spin your feet.
Spin your feet around.
Yeah.
Yes, well, that's the end of this episode. I want to thank you again so much for joining us, Fatima.
No, thank you for having me again, Christian. It's been great. Lots of memories down memory lane.
Yes, well, thank you and goodbye. See you in the next one.
Thank you.